Every single day, you are creating a new reality using your five senses of taste, smell, hearing, sight, and touch, feeling. That information that you're absorbing, which is like billions upon billions of information every single second, well, that information is interpreted by your brain and it's assigned an experience. Now, for an experience to be memorable, there needs to be an emotional charge. So just think about when you were a little boy or a little girl and you had an amazing adventure, maybe to a park, maybe to a family member's house, such as your grandparents. Just think about that experience. Besides all the sensory experiences that I've mentioned, what is most important? It's the experience of joy. And it will be the same for any negative experiences you have. For a memory to be formed, you need an emotional charge, meaning a positive or negative emotion beyond baseline, so up or down. But here's the thing, within the first 0 to 7 years of your life, and I actually say even during conception, well, by the time you are 7 years of age, about 99% of the way you see things, the way you view things, the way you perceive things are formulated in a framework. I call it a map or a blueprint. You see the world not as the world is, but as you are. And so as a result, you create a reality which is actually very much distorted by your experiences. Like I said, particularly up to the age of 7, but of course throughout the rest of your childhood as well. So if you fast forward to here and now, your entirety of your reality is actually created from the past. I used to hear the figure that about 90% of everything that you think, feel, intend, act upon, react to is driven by your subconscious programming, meaning those things that happen to you that you were aware of and your unconscious programming that you were unaware of, well, 90% of that makes you do the things you do and behave the way you behave every single day. It seems like the number is much higher as 98%. Why is this important? This is important because, like my friend David Heiner said, every single micro decision you make leads to your current reality as well as your future reality. For example, if you go to the gym for the first time, you're not going to walk out fit and healthy if you've never trained before. It's going to take you regular, consistent training. So everything that is your current reality today was created by a past series of thoughts, feelings, actions, and reactions. The good news is this, that you can change that reality almost in an instant, but it actually takes a bit of time. So in today's episode of the Harun Rabbani Podcast, we are going to look at the single most driver of the way you think, you feel, you behave, you act, and you create your reality. And it is health related, both of the mind, both of the body, as well as the spirit. My name is Harun Rabbani, and I've been researching the synergy between science and consciousness for nearly 20 years. I've met some of the world's greatest leaders, transformational experts, scientists. I've been in the world of leadership, and one of the things I've done is explore how we create our reality and how one person, me or you, can change almost the entire world. The Harun Rabbani Podcast has been very much focused on health and wellness. However, it is a very important aspect of your life. Your health is your wealth, but it is not the only aspect. If 98% of everything that you're doing every single day is driven by your subconscious programming, that means only 2%, maybe even 5% at the most, you are creating or you are doing consciously, you're aware of. The rest of it, you're in automated mode. Here is the challenge. 70% of that 98% that I mentioned is fear-based, it's negative-based, it's survival-based. And there is a reason. It's not that you're a bad person or there's something wrong with you, but the human instinct, and all animals as well actually, well, the very important instinct is to survive, is to get through life without being eaten by a polar bear or a Bengal tiger or a saber-toothed tiger. I don't personally know too many people who have been chased after a polar bear, Bengal tiger or saber-toothed tiger. Yet, our instincts are still there, and it gets triggered by external forces as well as our internal programming. So how do we deal with these triggers? It's all about your emotions, your energy in motion. If you know how to manage your emotions, then you are going to manage and in fact control far more of your reality than you can possibly imagine. Now, in the world of Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, which is Indian medicine, they link different organ systems and organs to different emotions. In today's episode, we're going to look at those different emotions. Before you say anything, Chinese medicine, it's not been around a long time. Well, it kind of has, about 4,000 years. And Ayurvedic medicine, probably nearly 5,000 years. Modern medicine, as amazing as it is, it's only barely a couple of 100 years old. In fact, most of the greatest discoveries has been in the last 100 years or so. Why is it important to be aware of your emotions? Every single day we're going to have various triggers. We might be angry, and then very often people make decisions. Just think about a married couple, get into a heated argument. And in that moment, the worst thing you can do is to make a decision of like, hey, we need to separate. On the opposite end, of course, I've seen this happen in so many personal development events where the speaker on stage is going to get you motivated up and shouting, screaming, singing from top of your lungs. And then they'll ask you to buy their product and you jump for their product. I've seen it happen hundreds of times. I don't like it because you're on the opposite end of the spectrum, which is an emotional high. There is no balance. You're making a decision based on not reality, not logic, not rationale, but your emotions. On the other side, somebody might be unwell, physically sick. Because their energy has been depleted, they are low on the emotional scale, and so they jump for the first medication without really giving it any logic and rationale. And you would hope the person prescribing the medication, of course, is going to guide them to make a better decision. This doesn't always happen. It's so important that you, on so many levels, take full control of your emotional charge, of your emotions. Please keep in mind, this is not a scientific experiment. This is not a scientific lecture. I'm going to go through some of the emotions related to some of the organs, and I would like for you to use this as an introduction to the whole concept of emotions and organs. So we begin with liver, which is strongly related to anger, depression, resentment, and irritability. You will find that a lot of people who have issues with liver tend to have those kind of emotions. And if you have those kinds of emotions, it makes that organ, the liver, unhealthy. Liver is your organ of detoxification. So you've heard this saying that when you're angry with somebody else, it's like drinking poison and hoping the other person is going to get sick. So just think, when you're getting angry, you are blocking the detoxification process taking place in the liver. Closely linked to the liver is gallbladder. Gallbladder is strongly related to resentment. This is the kind of stuff that you're holding on to. Say somebody did something a while back and now you're upset and you haven't let go of that for years and years. And very often you have gallbladder issues. The next one is the stomach, which is associated with shame, sadness, and just generally finding life hard. So you end up losing your appetite, or you end up making your stomach vulnerable to infections, to ulcers. The lungs are strongly associated with grief and sadness that you have not been able to let go. I want to give you a real life example. I'm originally from the country of Bangladesh, which was East Pakistan pre-1971. During the 1971 War of Independence between East Pakistan and West Pakistan, there was a genocide which took as much as 3 million people on the higher end of the scale. A lot of people who survived had this level of sadness and betrayal that they've not been able to let go of for their entire lifetime. So many of these people came to the UK, my parents included. And so you will find that a lot of people with lung health issues are holding on to sadness, holding on to grief that they haven't let go of. And so many people from the Bangladeshi community across the UK, the oldest generation I'm talking about, had a very, very big challenge when it came to that big virus that shut the country down, in fact, shut the world down a couple of years back. Problems with the bladder, such as getting UTI, is related to fear, anxiety, embarrassment, and being shy. The uterus, obviously related to females, is strongly correlated to anger with yourself, meaning you're upset with yourself and beating yourself up, and also associated with relationship issues with other people, particularly soulmate type relationships. Thyroid, which is located in the throat area, is related to being unheard. Nobody listens to you. Nobody allows you to express yourself, or you're stopping yourself from expressing yourself to others. So you're suppressing your own communication outwards. The ovaries are related to blocked creativity, inner conflict, loss, or bitterness. The kidneys are related to fear, bashfulness, a weak will, hard to say no, and insecurities. Just think of the kidneys, they have the adrenal glands which release adrenaline. Adrenaline is released when you are in this fight, flight, or freeze. So for example, as if you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. But keep in mind, this can also be triggered by your perception of being in a survival stage. So for example, it might be in a relationship with your boss, with your co-workers, your colleagues, or it could be with somebody who's a family member. They trigger thoughts inside of you that leaves you feeling insecure. The lower back, which isn't an organ but a region, is associated with unexpressed anger, fear, avoidance, and catastrophizing. So in other words, you're only seeing the worst that might happen in your life or to the world. The pancreas, which is very strongly related to people with type 2 diabetes and people with type 1 diabetes, is related to low self-esteem, lack of self-worth, and having poor boundaries. In other words, you're allowing people to ignore your boundaries, ignore your values, and basically walk all over you. The heart is related to a lack of love. To be honest, it's more so related to the lack of feeling of love, the feeling of joy and bliss, and general happiness in your life. The spleen is related to overthinking, worrying too much, and overanalyzing. And finally, your teeth are related to lack of personal power. I don't know about you, I'm not a medical doctor nor am I a scientist, but one thing I do understand from this information that I shared with you is it's something that's been accumulated over thousands and thousands of years and many thousands of patients. And of course, the science that we use in the West is not exactly the same science as they use in the East. So here's what I'd like you to do. I want you to entertain the possibility everything that I said is true. What are you going to do about it? Well, here's 5 things you can do to have so much more better control of your emotions. Because when you have control of your emotions, your energy is not wasted. Just keep this in mind. A high positive emotion or a high negative emotion or a low negative emotion takes energy. And if you don't believe me, think about the last time you were with somebody that you had an argument with, somebody who really left you upset. How did you feel afterwards? Did you feel full of energy or did you feel drained? Or if you're in a toxic relationship with someone, maybe with a narcissist, how does that leave you feeling? So here are the 5 things you can do straight away to start improving the health of your organs. Number 1, sleep. I cannot emphasize this enough, that all the organs and the body parts that I mentioned earlier on need rest and recuperation. And it is only during the hours of sleep, meaning deep sleep, that your body heals and your organs actually heal and they repair themselves at certain times of the night. And I emphasize the words certain times of the night. We are diurnal creatures. That means we are supposed to be awake during the day, not at nighttime. So between the hours of 9 p.m. and 11 p.m., for example, as long as you're in a sleep state, your brain detoxifies. What do I mean by that? You have a system in your brain which allows the toxins to be discarded only when you're asleep, because literally your brain cells shrink down whilst you're asleep. You don't need to use it too much, right, while you're asleep. And so this is why sleep is important. So the best time to sleep, ideally at the latest, is 10 p.m. at night, and wake up at 6 a.m. because all of your organs would have been healed. We've done an entire episode about sleep hygiene. I definitely recommend you go and watch it. Click that link. The next thing is food. What kind of quality of food are you having? So for generally most people, having excess amount of foods does not do your body any good. This is for vast majority of people I'm talking about. The kinds of foods you should be eating are foods that improve the health of your brain, the health of your heart, your liver. It's important that you don't eat over processed foods, because when you do that, then your liver has to go into overdrive to get rid of the poisons, as well as your kidneys and other body organs. So make sure you eat foods that are supportive of your organs. The third thing is stay hydrated. This affects your reality and the way you make decisions all the time. For example, if a student walks into an exam room and they are dehydrated, compared to if they were fully hydrated and normal, they will drop 10% in their final grade. Yeah, that's how important it is. So make sure you're hydrated throughout the day. You don't have to overdrink. Just sip water throughout the day, maybe with a bit of lemon and a touch of salt. The next thing is, of course, we are constantly bombarded with information, especially on social media, and when you're at work and when you're talking to people, there's so much huge amounts of information which is overfilling our brain. It's important that you empty your brain, have a bit of a brain dump. So a number of things you can do. Number one, spend 5 to 10 minutes a day at some point, preferably at the end of the evening, end of the day, to write down everything that you want to write down. Get it out of your system. If you're an ambitious leader, somebody who wants to make a big difference and you got loads to do tomorrow, then write down your top 3 to 6 activities you are going to do tomorrow. Get everything out of your head before you go to sleep. Another way to empty your mind is just practice meditations. Could be anything from breathing techniques to a whole range of meditation styles. Daily meditation practice should be obligatory. It is for those who are high achievers. So this will also help you to be a lot more in touch with your body and your mind. And the third element of emptying your head is actually mindfulness. Just be aware when you are having an emotional reaction. Notice when you get angry. Notice when you get triggered. Make a note of it. Just pay attention as a starting point. In time, if you choose to address those issues, you will have far less reactivity to people, places, and predicaments. And finally, if you're really looking to change things around, then seek out feedback. Who do you get feedback from? Go to somebody who's a trusted family member, a trusted friend, or a mentor, or a coach. Get feedback about your emotions, your behaviors. The more you reflect, the more chances you have of doing something about the high and the low emotions. Please remember that the reality that is happening in your life is being created by you on a day-to-day basis. It's not about what happens to us every day. It's about how we respond or how we react. React meaning you're driven by emotions. Respond meaning you are consciously aware of how you will address a particular situation. And so if you operate from a space of stoicism, a space of neutrality over a period of time, you will make better and better decisions. If you operate from high emotions or low emotions, your reality is going to be a victim of your programming. I have 2 questions for you. Number 1, what is your most dominating emotion that comes up a lot? Mine used to be anger. No 2 ways about it. What about you? What's your dominating emotion that seems to rear its ugly head on a regular basis? Or maybe irregular, but it's one particular emotion. What is that? Number 2, what will you do or consider doing to address that emotion? Remember, get rest, eat well, empty what's going on in your head, and then start making better decisions. Hope this has been useful for you. I will see you at the next episode of the Harun Rabbani Podcast.